Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. It's your man Jay Will. Smartphone Conversations Tuesdays podcast. We are live, and we're going to talk about jumping in here. We're just going to go ahead and talk about some of the expectations that people have. Are to me are just not realistic, but that's just my personal opinion. However, I wanted to talk to you all and kind of get your take on you know, the way people perceive what we should have versus reality. And I tagged this one with the HTC U11's photo going off. Hey, someone's in the chat already. Hey, TJ is in the house already with me. I appreciate you joining me live once again. Be sure to share this podcast on your social media. So let's grow these numbers. I want to send a big thank you out again for you guys. You guys took me over 1,000, and now I'm well over 1,000. So I appreciate that. But today is officially HTC U11 day, and let's just call it what it is. We all, as techies, were waiting for this day because we wanted to see if some people were waiting to see if HTC would drop the ball and as in their minds put it, like they dropped with the U Ultra, which I disagree with that. I don't think the U Ultra is a fail, but just looking at how some people perceive what they think is fair to them. Everybody, and just disclaimer here, this is in no way saying that I am getting ready to say what is right. That's totally not what it is. Again, you know me, if you've been following me for years, you know I'm all about a good discussion. And I like to get people's input. I think that's important. I'm just the moderator, if you will, or the person out front talking and trying to represent a small group of people that might feel the same way as I do. But I try to keep a neutral stance on everything. Now, while I do have to put in my opinion on certain things, my word is, if you're from the East Coast, my word is not bond. So, I'm just giving my take on things and what I see online. And jumping in here, I think I really see so many people's expectations to me are just way too high. And I've done so many podcasts and videos on the perfect smartphone. Folks, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And I'm going to specifically use the HTC U11 as a stepping stone or a crutch in this quick podcast. The U Ultra came out and everybody talked about what it didn't have and said it was a fail, the price was wrong. They just had a bunch of things to say about the U Ultra. I personally feel like the U Ultra, while it's not a perfect 10, I think it's way better than what was perceived online and what those certain people in the media put out there about the Ultra to try to get it to fail. There are people today who are still using the Ultra like me, and they think it's fantastic. There's people who don't have it, but had it and said it was fantastic. Now, the 11, to me, is a direct impact to haters. Like, the haters that hated on the U Ultra is what I'm saying. Like, there's some people that just flat out didn't even buy the Ultra and just, they sucked on everything that the media put out there and agreed with it. The U11 is a complete destroyer on paper of several phones out, in my opinion. Now, I already got a video out, my thoughts on the U11. It's there. Go watch it. I don't need to promote it. If you're following me, I appreciate your support. It's not what it's about. And remember, I love a great discussion. So the U11, to me, pushes out everything the haters pretty much said that the U Ultra didn't do. Even though I think the U Ultra is sweet, fantastic phone. And several other people agree. The U11, though, you've got 7.1 on top of HTC Sense. And I've said it before, I don't take shots at other operating systems. But the fact is, Sense runs very smooth. While it's not stock Android smooth, it definitely has no problems for me. I don't have any problems with Sense UI at all. It is phenomenal. Also, the cameras. Everybody keeps talking about how great the S8 cameras are. And I'm using the S8 again to compare because in my testing, I compared the S8 to the U Ultra. I gave the S8 credit. The rear camera on the S8 was a little bit better than the HTC U Ultra, but the front camera on the Ultra smashed the S8. Even the G6 rear camera to me is better than the S8's camera in more situations. Like, they're all good, but it edges out the S8 in some areas, as does the the U Ultra's camera edges out the S8 in the rear camera. It basically can hang with the S8, if you will, but it kills it on the front camera. Shout out to Grant S. He did a camera. He does great camera comparisons. I know he's a tech reviewer, but he does unboxings. But I use him as an example because he does detailed camera reviews, like 15-minute videos. I do 3 to 7 minute videos sometimes, 3 to 5 minute videos. So he's way more detailed than I am with the cameras. But I have to use the S8 as a benchmark because everybody thinks the S8 is so great. I think it's fantastic. It's not the kill-all phone. And a phone like the U11 just said so. All the people out there can post comments saying, oh, the U Ultra is not going to sell, whatever. I was having a conversation with a group of guys that I talked to over in the Smartphone Conversations Telegram group. And we were having a great conversation. I really love it. Shout out to those guys. But, my response to some things was, what does sales figures have to do with how good a phone is? And, we hashed it out. We came to an understanding, and that's just what we do. We come to an understanding. We're not arguing. We're just having a conversation. But the the U11's camera, 12 megapixel, UltraPixel, just like the S8, right? But I can't guarantee you, but just having experience with the U Ultra's camera, I don't see the U11's camera being worse than the S8. And that's where I have to leave that. So for those asking me, Jay, are you going to get the U? Come on, man. You know I'm a fan of the U Ultra. Come on. Or the U11. Yeah, I love it already. Just based on what I see from it. And my previous experience with HTC devices, not just the U Ultra. The HTC 10 has a great camera to me. It has OIS and it has EIS with a 1.7 aperture on the rear of the 11. 4K recording, all the bells and whistles, Snapdragon 835. Even the front camera has a 2.0 aperture. It has 3D audio, boom sound. I mean, there's a lot. Okay, so let's touch on the things that people might complain about. No wireless charging. I'm not going to pump up the U11 like it's just the top dog because I don't know that yet. I don't have it yet. But I will say, the 3,000 milliamp hour battery in the U11, I don't think I'm going to have a problem with it because there's a 3,000 milliamp hour battery in my HTC U Ultra, and the battery life is great. It's fantastic. I mean, I can go a full day, literally 24 hours, and still pull in at least 5.5 hours of screen on time. Now you hear techies talk about screen on time. Because really, that's kind of really what counts. It doesn't do any good to have a phone that's going to last 16 hours off of one charge and only get like 3 hours of screen on time. So you hear techies talk about that. But for the average consumer, if your phone can I think the average consumer bases their experience with the battery on charge cycles, meaning they didn't have to charge it for 3 days, but they might have only gotten 3 hours of screen on time, which is actually fantastic battery when you think about it. Because I've done that with my G6. My G6 went 49 hours, and I had 5 hours and 42 minutes of screen on time or something like that. That's great battery, man. So this 3,000 milliamp hour battery, some people are complaining about already. Oh my gosh. I don't think these people understand about battery. Yes, let's be clear. A bigger battery definitely should give you better battery. It should on paper. But I've got phones that have big batteries that don't have long battery life. And I've got phones with small batteries like 2700 that have fantastic battery life. In fact, the iPhone 7, like 1800, 1700, great battery life. But the 3,000 milliamp hour battery in the U11, people are already complaining about it. Oh, they should have did this. I was expecting this. This is what they should have done. Listen, the the U11 is $599, man. The S8 is $750 and $850 for the Plus. Some people might say, well, it doesn't have the 18:9 ratio. That's just something that OEM put out. On the G6, they did it, and on the S8, they did it. But listen, Sony has been doing edge-to-edge screens since when? I didn't hear anybody giving them any praise because they're not smart enough to make their mark in the U.S. They're bringing these phones over here with MediaTek processors, and not to say that MediaTek processors are bad, but techies kind of run certain markets and they convince other people to buy stuff. You know where I'm going with that? So, yeah, it has a 5.5 inch with the old ratio of like 16:9 or whatever. People will complain about that. Well, that's not the future. That's not the future. That's not the way we're going. Like they're the ones building the phones. Listen, I've done articles and videos and podcasts on the perfect smartphone and what you should expect, but I just think some expectations that people have for devices, even before they get their hands on them, are bad. You're just looking at the paper. You're looking at what the specs show. Battery life, if you're smart, you know that it's the way a phone is optimized. The Pixel doesn't have a huge battery. Like in the XL, it has what, a 3400 or something like that? I don't remember off the top of my head, but it doesn't pull down 8-9 hours of screen on time. It doesn't do it. So the benchmark where I'm going, I'm directly putting the U11 against the G6, the U11 against the S8, and the U11 against the Ultra. These are the phones that I have that I think is worthy of competition. The S8 especially. And contrary to popular demand or contrary to what people might think, I don't hate the S8. What it is I'm a realist, and I'm not going to sit up here and just piggyback what everybody else says. I'm going to do my reviews based on how I want to do the review, which is a neutral stance if possible, which is pretty much all the time because I have a certain guideline that I follow when I'm picking apart things on phones. They all follow the same line. You can't be a reviewer and start knocking a phone. Now, I'm guilty of this. Don't get me wrong. I'm guilty of talking about phones badly before I even had them, you know? And shout out to Chris. He says the J7's battery is boss. I completely agree. My J7 is right here in my little phone cabin, and I get well over 7.5, 8 hours screen on time on every charge. But TouchWiz, remember, the J7 has an Exynos processor. So the J7 has the advantage. And it has a 720p Super AMOLED display, 720p, so it's coming consistently. The S8 also it drops it down to 1080p, and people make excuses for that, saying, oh, Samsung did that because you don't know why Samsung did that. It's obvious that they did it because they knew the battery wasn't going to be good, because Samsung put a 3,000 milliamp hour battery in the S8. I don't hear everybody complaining about that. Oh, because it has an iris scanner. Oh, because it has this. There are so many things that are wrong with the S8, but due to the powers that be, people praise it. This is the best phone in the world. But you know what? Someone left a comment. I apologize for not knowing your name. But they said on one of my videos, and I'm going to get out of here in a minute, but they said on one of my videos, this phone is by far getting ready to be the most underrated phone of 2017. And they are absolutely correct. They are correct. You are right on. The U11 is getting ready to be the most underrated phone ever because it is packing what you want. It's water resistant. Some people are going to say, oh, it doesn't have IP68. You don't even put your phone near water anyway. So what does it matter? The fact that they have that there, that to me, that was something to be like, to all those haters out there. Shut up. We gave it a Snapdragon 835. And shout out to Mark T in one of the groups. He said, real quick before I get out, he said that he thought that Samsung had exclusive rights to the 835 first. I didn't know anything about that, but if that's true, someone can comment and let me know once this hits YouTube, if I put it on YouTube. And if you guys let me know, did Samsung have exclusive rights to the 835? I don't know, but I completely agree. You've got now I don't follow like DxO marks and all that kind of stuff, but they've already rated this camera at a 90, which is higher than anything out there. And to me, the Ultra's cameras I can't stress it enough. Heck, I like the S7 cameras better than the S8 cameras. And yes, it sounds like I'm beating on the S8, but the S8 is a phone that everybody keeps saying is the best. And a lot of people don't even have it. They're just reading what's on paper or watching a bunch of YouTube videos that were put out and agreeing with them. So, it's your man Jay Will. Check this out. You got to set realistic expectations when you're purchasing a device. The HTC U11 is $599, man, and it's got everything the S8 has. And more if you think about that. Don't forget that BoomSound. The beautiful 16 megapixel camera, which we already know is going to be better than the S8's camera. Call it like I see it, man. It is what it is. The BoomSound alone on the U Ultra, I mean, come on. Tuesday's podcast, it's your man Jay Will. I'll do longer podcasts. Trust me, they are coming because 15 minutes is not enough. It's your man Jay Will. If you see this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a comment. Share this podcast, guys. Let's get this movement going. Take care.